Our heroes have made it to the Shire. If the halflings do not fight the goblins in the Dwarven Kingdom, they will eventually fight them in the Shire. This lands with the Master Sheriff, and she says, I must bring it to the sheriffs of the Shire. I must bring it to our council. I'll have to call them together. Touchberry is interested in connecting with his girlfriend. The Shire has gathered, they have conferred, and they will go to aid their neighbors to the north. Halfling children coming out wide-eyed and watching all the soldiers, and then into the forest where they find the river and a road alongside the river. They don't want to make a lot of noise. They don't want to be detected. Just a rustling, a slight noise from the brush. A very well armored and armed dwarf. Birion turns. Gwynnos! No good news, Birion. Nothing to your comfort. The enemy have attacked. There's a sort of a secret pass through the mountains that the dwarves thought they were the only ones that knew about, but the goblins have found it. My scouts tell me there is a giant on the way. They decide they're going to go fight the giant in the north. From there they can see across the bit of woods to the great lake and the mountain. Goblins! Magic missile! Down he goes to a pass through the mountains. And here comes trouble. They've gone a little ways in. They're too far to just, turn and run out. They're like an hour or two into this pass, and it's a long channel that's cut through the mountains, and it curves here and there. Maybe it was cut by ancient people, ancient dwarves, ancient somebody, who knows. It does curve and things like that. So as they're going along, ahead of them there's a curve, and they hear a sound, a rumbling, and immediately the giant. No, it's not a footstep sound. It's like a barrel rolling down a cobblestone path. It's like some huge wagon of some kind, because that's what it is. Around the curve, they see emerging with a clank and a hiss and a rumble and a roar, a goblin war wagon. I've been waiting to do this. I have been waiting to do this ever since way back at the beginning, I decided that goblins were tinkerers and inventors of cruel machines. I have wanted to make a goblin war wagon, and here it is. Oh, it is astonishing what you can do with the barbecue skewers and toothpicks and tongue depressors, isn't it? I love it. Anyway, this piece I'm actually pretty proud of, because as I built it, I had no clear idea when I started, right? I had no clear idea what I was going to do. I want a wagon. It should be about this wide, about this long. Okay, do that bit. Now let's see. It's got to have some sides so that the goblins inside are protected, because it's going to be tank-like. Okay, we'll make those, right? Anyway, this thing is wicked. Spikes everywhere with blood? Is that dried blood on the end of them? Yes, it is. And, most ominously, mounted on the front, a whirling device of chains that whip through the air. Also, blood-soaked. This is a gruesome device of war. It is armored with leather hanging in the front and wooden sides. A roof on it prevents arrow fire from getting in from enemies on high ground. And there is a clanking and a hissing and a whirring from inside. This is driven by steam power. It's as advanced as the technology will get. Gnomes are sort of also tinkerer kind of characters in the D&D world, and they tend to be. So I've decided I'm going to give them some devices as well. We haven't met any gnomes. I don't really have any plans for any gnomes, but wherever the gnomes are, they are also tinkerers. But so are the goblins, and they like to tinker in death. They like to tinker with weaponry. So here this thing comes, powered by steam, grinding its way over the rocks in this relatively level space with the chains just whipping around. And the chain device is hooked to the axle, so if it's moving forward, the chain is spinning around, all right? This thing's driving forward, and there are goblins riding on the outside of it as lookouts to help steer, right? There's also goblins inside, and a surprise that they don't know about and can't see. So, here the thing comes down this passage, and as soon as they're spotted, the goblins on the front start chattering and screaming to the goblins inside, and you can hear the level of the steam and the hiss and the roar increase as it gains speed, and the goblin on the front begins directing to inside, which way to steer, this way, that way, and the players are like, what do we do? Against the wall! Everyone plasters themselves to the wall, and it's bearing down on them when finally Fleetwood says, lightning bolt, lightning bolt! He and Bob Johnny step out into the path of this thing. And I say, if you step out, it will hit you, right? You're not going to be able to cast the spell and run. It's going to get you. But they say, all right, we're casting it. All right, what's your target? Fleetwood is going for the wheels. He shoots toward the wheels on one side of it. He shoots his lightning bolt that way. Bob Johnny shoots direct. He's trying to get inside the thing, okay? All right, they roll their dice for damage. It's 5d6 for damage. They fire. I also give the Goblin War Wagon, in essence, a saving throw. And this isn't obviously about dodging something. It is just about the integrity, the toughness of the thing. And, well, is the wood dry or wet? If it's wet, it's going to conduct electricity really well, and there's going to be hissing and popping and exploding. If it's dry, it'll be less conducive, but it might light on fire more easily, etc., etc., etc. So, they fire off their lightning bolts. Fleetwood's tears into the side arm and into the wheels that's on the left side of the vehicle as it approaches them, its left side. And I say you see fire run down the length of that arm, and you can hear a hissing from the wood. The wheels, they're moving and grinding, and there's a lot of metal on the wheels, so not much happens to the wheels, but a fire does start on one of the front arms of the thing. Bob Johnny, your lightning bolt streaks in, and it, because it's not just a beam, it's a whole sort of network of, the way lightning goes. And about a 5-foot wide path. It streaks in, some of it hits the leather and it sizzles and there's scorch marks on the leather. Some of it works its way under the roof, and you hear screaming from within. Screaming from within. Right, so we've got 2 hits. What's going to happen? We'll see. We'll see what precisely happens. The archer goblin on the front of the wagon fires. He misses. I think he's firing at Bob Johnny, but the armor, right? But down bears the wagon, and it strikes. It hits. Burian tries to get out of its way on the right. It's right, their left, as they look at it. He is able to get past the spikes as they first pass him, but one of the later ones scratches him. Not too much. It hits him. It's 1d4 if it's passing that way, like a dagger kind of thing. So he takes a few hit points, nothing huge. Gwent Noss goes to the other side to try to dodge around that way, and he actually misses because the wagon had been heading over toward the party. He actually misses the first blow, but, sorry, Lightning. He's going to get his. At any rate, the main damage is those chains, right? Incidentally, Fofire has shot off, and she's hit one of the goblins riding on the front, and he falls and is crushed underneath the wheels of the thing. But here come the chains whipping through the air. Both Bob, Johnny, and Fleetwood are hit. Ow! And it's 1d12 per chain that hits them. And I roll to see how quickly they can get under. Essentially, I roll a 1d4. There's 4 chains, and if all 4 hit, they get hit for 4d12. They can escape some of them. What do I roll? Okay, a 2. 2d12, and they take 19 points of damage as the 2 chains whip into them. Just ripping into them. Down they go, though. They drop down to avoid the chains as they come forward. Now, however, there's a set of spikes, the sort of sweepers underneath the chains that are coming for them as well. Meanwhile, Touchberry has uncorked a thing of oil. As soon as he saw it, he said, I'm getting an oil thing ready. And he's uncorked it and stuck some cloth in it. He was tearing up cloth to be ready for this and has lit it. Now, he's used all these initial rounds for that. We're back to their round of action. And he throws his oil. And I go, okay, roll an attack hit. See how you do. Rolls natural 20. And, of course, halflings have a bonus for missile weapons. He doesn't even need it, though. It soars right through a gap in the front of this thing, inside, and there's an explosion. And remember, Bob Johnny had shot some lightning in there, so there's some fires already lit. Boom! There's more fire from inside of the thing, and more screaming of goblins. But the thing continues to roll, right? It starts to slow, however, and down at the ground, Bob Johnny and Fleetwood are using their round to try to squirm on their bellies forward to get away from the spikes that are coming toward them. They don't miss it entirely. Fleetwood takes a stab from a spike, and going in a stab motion, it's a 1d6, and he takes like 4 more points of damage or something like that. He's starting to hurt. He's starting to really notice the pain. Okay, this thing stabs into him. Bob Johnny avoids it. Maybe the armor helps him. Maybe he just crawls a little faster. Bob Johnny avoids it. The wagon is now on top of them, and the goblins jump down to attack. Fire switches over to her sword as the goblins come to attack. Now, they happen to land right there where both Touchberry and Birion can get at one of them, and they slaughter it. Just gone. Just goblin goo, right? And so here stands Fofire with her sword like, oh, I was going to do that, but okay, thanks. On the other side, I mentioned Gwent Noss. Gwent Noss gets caught under the wheel. There is this sickening sound and a scream, and nothing. Birion screams in horror. But he can't get there. This huge wagon is in between. It is now slowing down. The chains are beginning to droop in their turn, and eventually they hang limp down below, and goblins pour out of this thing, and huge combat erupts on the ground. The heroes are just getting the advantage. They're just beating the remaining goblins when the entire cart shifts, and stomping along over the body of Gwent Noss comes an ogre. This guy walks along behind the wagon. His job is to push it if it gets stuck on something. His job is to get it, unhooked from things. And he couldn't get to them because all of the goblins there, he couldn't shift the cart or he'd squash his own guys, right? But now that they're already gone, he moves the cart bodily from the back, just picks it up and heaves it over, and comes stomping through with his huge club. Fofire takes this opportunity to switch from sword to bow. She never really got a chance to use her sword. She switches from sword to bow as the ogre bears down on Bob Johnny and Fleetwood, and with one swing, boom, he hits both of them. I can't remember the damage. It was pretty, it's like 9 points or something, or 10 points. Pretty intense. And Touchberry runs over into the attack, and he gets a good shot in. Fofire shoots and misses the first time. Fleetwood and Bob Johnny both attack. Bob Johnny with his Brasingas, and a fiery axe comes slashing down. This battle rages for a little bit. Birion in particular, furious at this entire situation, launches himself into combat. But it's very constricted because the machine is still there, and occasionally they're hitting up against spikes and they're taking damage. The ogre takes some damage from the spikes as well because they force him onto the spikes at the side at one point. There's another huge swing of the club. This time, Touchberry has joined, and he also gets clipped by this thing as it goes by. Halflings have an advantage against larger than human-sized opponents because they're hard to hit, but the ogre rolls like a 19, so yeah, he's going to get hit. He hits all 3 of them in one big swing, dealing out, it wasn't as serious as like 7 or 8 points this time, but still, a big swallop. Finally, Bob Johnny has released magic missiles, right? 3 magic missiles into it. Finally, though, an arrow comes soaring through from Fofire. Thunk! And down the ogre goes. It's just enough. Crashes to the ground. Dead. Oh. another such victory and we are undone. They look around and assess the damage. Everyone, except Fofire, everyone is wounded. Actually, no, I think Fofire took a little bit of a ding early on, but nothing much. I mean, tis but a scratch. Everyone else is pretty banged up, Burian included. And there's the body of Gwent Noss. They go to him, and Burian is keening and weeping. This was a childhood hero. This was one of the great heroes of the Dwarven Kingdom. He was one of the strong and powerful ones. And had he not already been injured from earlier battles, he probably would have survived. But it was too much. It was too much. This was a bit of a moment for the group because they've never had an NPC on their side die, right? They've never had someone in their company die. This is new for them, right? Now, it's an NPC, they just met him, so it's not as emotional, but, whew, it was not easy. It was not easy. They join in Birian's sorrow, and one of the questions they have was, what do you do with your dead? Quick, Dungeon Master, think up Dwarven funerary rites. Well, this one was easy. He needs to be entombed beneath the mountain, right? With his fathers and mothers, grandfathers and grandmothers, with his ancestors. He needs to be entombed in the mountain. But they can't get to the mountain right now. What are they going to do with him? They decide what they will do is go back out of the pass. Even though they're going to lose time against the giant, they're going to go back outside the pass, and they will bury him there. They'll find, because it's all rocky here, they can't bury anyone here. They will find an area where they can bury him, a place that they will mark, they will remember, and then after all of this is finished, they will exhume the body and place it in the tomb. Now, they're discussing this. They're working out these somber details, assessing the situation, using Touchberry's sword of healing to heal Fleetwood. They're doing all of this when they begin to notice a hissing sound. It's been there all along. Of course, this thing has a boiler in it of some kind. They don't understand the technology, but they know there's some kind of hissing comes out of it. But it's getting louder. Isn't it a creaking, kind of crunching sound? What on earth? Remember, there was a fire under this boiler already that the goblins lit. That's part of the way the machine works. But then, Bob Johnny and Touchberry added to the fire. Now, it's a lot hotter than it was before. And what happens to a pressurized, kind of system when you add more heat and more pressure? Boom! The roof of the thing blows off and flies flaming into the air. A huge streak of light and then comes crashing back down. They don't even know where. It crashes down somewhere on the mountains around them. Oh, every goblin for 100 miles saw that. Okay, we better take Gwent Noss's body and take it fast. So they do. They gather it up, they gather up the body, and they bear it down south out of the pass to find a place to bury him. And that's how we end, with the burial of Gwent Noss, Birian chanting some of the prayers of the dwarves for the reception of the hero's spirit, and that's how we end the adventure. As the players cleaned up their stuff, put their character sheets away and put their dice back in their bags and boxes and whatnot, the topic around the table was, who saw that flaming piece of the roof go into the air? Who saw it? Are they on their way? And was the giant one of them? For Fallen Heroes.